Okay, so hopefully you had some success putting together the artist model and the album and then wiring the two up. And remember, both these things should have been created inside of our album and artist files in our project directory. So in this section, we're going to go through the implementation of both of these files and make sure that we're both on the same page about where we should be going. So we need to create the artist and the album and then link the two together. The first important thing to recognize is that because the album is a subdocument of artist, album will not be a full model. It is just going to be a schema. So remember, we do not create a model when it's an embedded document. We only create a schema. So let's start off by creating our album. We'll make just the schema, and then we'll work on our artist. Okay, so let's give this a shot. I'm going to flip over to my album file first. I'm going to take out the comment at the top because, hey, we're doing this thing, right? We're starting it right now. So we're going to follow the exact same approach that we used inside of our post schema in the last project we were working with. So I will first start by importing or requiring in Mongoose. So I'll require Mongoose. Then I'll pull off the schema object from Mongoose. Next, we'll create our album schema. So I'll say const album schema equals new schema. Now, I definitely kind of wrung you a little bit with difficulty by saying that you should just have all these properties and just assign the appropriate type to them. And I kind of left you to figure out what they should all be. Hopefully, we'll go through all the different types. I really encourage you, if you used a different type for any of these variables or these properties in here, I encourage you to follow the same types that I'm using. If you have any questions about why I'm using a particular type, I encourage you to leave a comment or discussion on this video, and we'll follow up on exactly why I picked any of these given types. But as we're entering them in, I'll definitely offer up some discussion about each one as well. So first, we'll write our title in. So every album is going to have a title property, title. So our title is probably going to be a string, right? Like we want to have a word for the title of the album. Next is our date, or the date that the album was released. Now in our users application, we only really ever spoke directly about a string type and a number type. There's another type to be aware of, and that is a date type. So if you didn't get this one, hey, no problem whatsoever. Throughout this entire section, as we're going through all these different queries, I'm definitely going to throw you kind of like out on a cliff a little bit, so to speak. All right, I'm going to kind of push you a little bit to have to do just a little bit of research on your own. If you get tired or frustrated at any point, don't sweat it. You can always go to the next video and go through the walkthrough as well. So I really encourage you not to get frustrated as we go through this. I am going to kind of push you a little bit by requiring you to figure out some stuff that I haven't explicitly stated earlier on in the course just yet. So a little bit more about this date type. Date right here is a reference to the global date object that is available inside of JavaScript. So by specifying date, this tells Mongoose and Mongo we're going to store a date field right here. So our next field, or next property, will be copies sold. So this is going to be the number of albums that have sold. And of course, hey, reasonable thing here, probably a number, right? Then the number of tracks that the album has. So this is like the number of songs that each album contains. I think, again, a number would be an appropriate designation here. So I'll assign a number type. Next, our image. So let's make sure we're on track here. We got copies sold, numbered tracks, and image. Now, image is a little bit more challenging. When we were looking at RoboMongo, we saw that it was a link to an image. So we're not actually storing an image file here. It is not like a raw JPEG or anything like that. It is a link to an image. That link is going to be a string or a web address, a URL. So I think a type of string here would definitely be appropriate. Finally, our revenue. Now this one is a little bit tricky. Okay, this one definitely requires a little bit of thought. The revenue here is supposed to be the number of dollars, or kind of like the amount of money that the album made. Now you might be thinking, well, revenue we might want to show eventually to a user like, $90,000 or something like that. And because we have the $sign in here and the comma, that would definitely indicate that it probably needs to be a string, because this would not be a valid number inside of JavaScript. However, whenever we store any type of currency in Mongo or any type of database, I really encourage you to stick with a just raw number designation, like something like this. And the reason that we go with this route is that if we ever need to convert this to any other type of currency or anything like that, we won't have to first remove the $sign out of the string and take out any commas or anything like that. We can just understand here's the raw numbers in US dollars or whatever currency it's meant to represent. We can multiply it by whatever currency factor, or we can format it, with a $sign and a comma, or maybe just a $sign, or maybe 90K, whatever formatting you might want to do. That is not really relevant for the database. So what I'm kind of getting at here is that I think we should just be storing the raw revenue in dollars, like number style. So I'm going to say that our revenue should be a number. Okay, the last step inside of here, make sure you do not forget to do this. We defined our album schema, and we want to share the code that we just created with other files in our project. So I'm going to make sure that I add in a module.exports album schema. Okay, so there we go. So here's our album schema in total, our entire whole project right here, our entire file. I want to take a quick pause here for just a second before we start on our artist. And I want to mention to you that at any point during these exercises, if you get stuck absolutely anywhere, the best way to get help from me, or to figure out what's going on, is if you can post your project up on GitHub or email it to me directly, like your entire project folder. If you send me both files, I can really easily go through all of your code and figure out exactly what's going wrong. Also, once the code is posted, I will make sure that I post some solutions on the official Upstart Music repository as well. So I'm at Upstart Music on my GitHub profile right here. By the time this course is published, you'll see a link to some of the solutions down here as well. So again, if you get stuck anywhere, a lot of different ways to get unstuck. Just let me know, let me help you out. Okay, so album file looks good. Let's take a quick break, come back, and start working on our artist model as well.